welcome to the next episode of Hanging Around the Fishing Hole. I'm your host, Lloyd Metcalf, and this is my co-host, Mr. Kent Lipka. Kent, thanks for joining us and coming back. Today we're going to talk about drop shot fishing, and we're going to do some fishing in the river and get the gear ready for spring, so stick around. It's nice to have you back.
Thanks.
And thanks for sticking around. I think you've contributed a lot to the show. I really appreciate you coming out.
This is a lot of fun, and I'm learning a lot of things. So.
Well, I learned a lot. The last episode we went on to the gun range,
Yeah.
and you taught us a lot about safety, and I learned a bunch of new things. And one of the things that you talked about was Hop's gun oil and not using WD-40 because it may have water in it.
Right.
Well, to sort of make a segue into what's happening here, we're getting ready for spring fishing. We've had 60-degree weather this week, and I am getting itchy. The river's all open. Taking care of the reels isn't really that much different than taking care of the guns.
Right.
So you brought me this reel here, but this is a lucky fishing reel.
This is a lucky fishing reel. I have caught some fish on this thing, and I just I know it's old and that there's probably better stuff out there with better ball bearings and all kinds of stuff, but just caught too many fish to retire it
well,
at this point. So.
This is an old Shakespeare 2400, and they've probably been around since, I don't know, 70s.
Custard was a cowboy.
Yeah, since Custer was a cowboy, yeah. But one of the things that I typically do to all my gear when I start getting the fishing itch is to go through all my gear, make sure it's lubed up and greased up. And I don't think it was this one. It was one of your fly reels that you showed me that I can tell that there's some sand in there, which can be just as detrimental as getting sand into your guns when you're looking for performance. I mean, not as deadly, but as detrimental to the inner workings of the reel.
Right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to sort of take this apart, clean it, and do a little lube on it. And the gun oil is the perfect thing to use on your reels also, because you're still looking at steel bearings, steel gears, and all that sort of stuff.
And very, very close tolerances between metal, and this is perfect. Again, you don't have to ever worry about water being in there or anything other than something that's really going to protect the two pieces of metal that are coming into contact.
Right. And these old reels aren't so intricate inside, but they're still very small tolerance. But it's even more important to keep them because there's probably some wear and tear in there. So every year it's a good thing to do, and I do mine sometimes 2 and 3 times this season, depending on where I'm fishing, and especially if you're going to do some saltwater fishing with this. If you take this reel out to get some mackerel, after a couple of fishing trips, you should really get in there and make sure it's clean because that salt will, and sometimes the oil will draw the salt water into the components. Everybody in the Fishing Hole audience, we've gained a professional cameraman, and his name is Josiah Ray, and he's helping us at the show. And this is going to be, I'm excited to have a cameraman.
I am too.
So these spin shots, as you can see, there's a little swivel attached to the hook. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm moving it around. There's a little swivel attached to this hook. And this is the best way that I've ever seen to fish soft plastics. And if the fish aren't biting heavily or aggressively, they always say to go smaller.
Okay. And
when you get down to a soft plastic that looks, realistic, you're looking at maybe like a 2 or 3 inch soft plastic. Mm-hmm. And well, if the spot you want to fish is halfway across the river, the challenge is how do you get it there and still make it look natural? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take the line from our rod and tie onto this top swivel, the rod, and then take another bit of line and tie on the bottom of the swivel, which will go to a bank sinker. And this is in the middle. And then you just nose hook a soft plastic in here so you can cast it halfway across the river, get down next to the bottom, however how you tie it, and then you can relax that line so that this soft plastic bounces just like a natural bait in the water. And this isn't this. I don't think very many people do that in Maine too much. The drop shot
No.
fishing. Mostly, what I see is fellas casting crankbaits, and I mean, my friend Hillary and I love to cast Yamamotos, but we don't fish them this way. And I think I'm going to switch over this year.
Sounds like a plan.
Because with just a drop shot on there, you're not getting tangled up on the logs and things. You can drag it along and reposition your bait, and then just let your slack down, and this little thing will bob up and down and act like a natural bait fish in the water.
Now, how far off of the sinker is that going to be?
Well, you got to look at your environment. I've got mine rigged up for maybe 18 inches.
18 inches, okay.
But you could certainly go a lot closer. But if you're fishing sandy bottom, like a lot of the river down here is sandy bottom, and you could get right down next to the bottom. But you want to be far enough away from that sinker to not spook the fish. Mm-hmm. But if you've got a lot of weed cover and whatnot, you could have 2-3 feet of this if you wanted. Make it all natural. What I've got here is the homemade version of those drop shot hooks that we were talking about.
Okay.
And if you look at this, all I did was I took 2 small swivels, tied a short bit of mono in between, and put the hook on there, and that hook will swing around. And the purpose of the swivels is really to avoid tangles. But this is the homemade version of those drop shot hooks. If you can't find those hooks, they were a little tricky for me to find. I had to order them online. The store didn't have them.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, it's a Bill Dance, Texas sort of way of fishing. But what's going to happen is, and I'll rig up the pro rig later, but you'll cast this out, and this sinker, I think this is a 1/4 ounce bank sinker, will land on the bottom, and then you've got this line to make this fella jiggle and wiggle in the current like a natural bait fish. Some of the longtime watchers of hanging around the fishing hole have seen me do this before, but I'm going to do it again. And this is the most common mistake that I see people make when they go fishing is the knot, the basic improved clinch knot. And I know a lot of people are just going to tell me, twist it, put it through the loop, and that's not the end of it. That's asking to lose your fish. And this one of the things I really hate to do is lose a fish and know that hook's in him, because it's going to be a while before he can eat again.
Right.
So it's important to, but I mean, it happens. Lines break, and this is a saltwater hook, and I'm gonna amplify it so that we can get a better view of how this works. So Ken, if you could just hold the back of this,
okay.
Hold it by the bend so you don't get stabbed. The improved clinch, and this is the knot that I'm going to use for the rigs today, is you go through the line like this, and you start by, you can hold it with your fingers or not, but you get a number of loops going, and I can't put as many as I'd like because this is bigger than kite string even.
Right.
But you twist it, and you're going to come up through the loop that you made by the eye of the hook. And then what that does is that's a clinch knot like that.
Okay.
And that's the one that a lot of fishermen use. The problem is you've got nothing here to stop this from slipping back through the hole as soon as pressure is applied. So the next step to the improved clinch knot is to feed this tag end back through this hole again. And then you can pull it tight. And I'm going to put a little pressure. And it'll come down. And that will never slip.
That will never slip.
Your line will break or the hook will bend before that line slips. And that's how to do the improved clinch knot. So I'm going to help you rig up for this drop shot style of fishing. And I think we're going to go hit the bridge today and maybe give it a try.
Excellent.
Now it's a little early in the season. I don't plan on keeping any fish. I'm not sure about the laws, so we got to check the law book before we go. I don't know. Are you interested in eating any today?
Let's just see how it goes.
See how it goes.
You know, I mean, I just, you know.
Well, we got to try to catch one first.
I've got to try and
catch
water
one.
Temperature. Then we can make up our minds what
That's
we're
right.
going to do.
The water temperature down the river is still quite cold. The snow is still receding. Actually, there's still some on the ground. Typically, you'd want to fish low and slow, and a fish's metabolism slows down in the cold weather, so they need to eat less. So we really got to entice them with the perfect bait, and I think this is going to be the ticket.
Let's give it a try.
Okay. One of the bonuses of fishing underneath a power plant in the spring is that the turbines actually warm the water up slightly, and sometimes just that couple of degrees can be all the difference. The current's a little heavy in this spot, so we're going to try to jump over up into a quieter bit of water. The only way we could actually drop shot here is if we had like an ounce on or something like that, and we've got light gear. So we got a nice little hole tucked up underneath the bridge, and I think we're going to transport over there and see how we do. We did get a little result. So the drop shot worked. And this is well, now stop you. This is just a yellow perch, which is a member of the bass family. And spiky on his, see on his gill covers, he's got some spikes. And spines on his,
those spikes.
I know. He's got spines on his back. You can see fins, spines, and all sorts of things to be cautious of. But they're edible, and it's cold weather, so they shouldn't be wormy. I'm not going to eat this one. He's going to go back to his home. I was looking for some bass, maybe. But the drop shot works, and we're early. This is still March.
This is March.
Hard to believe.
What, 13?
Yeah? So that's how the drop shot rig works, and it takes a little finesse. I'm going to send him back, and then I'll talk. But you got to give the fish, especially early in the spring where their metabolism is slower, you got to give them a chance to inspect the bait, and that's why this works like it does. I changed out to a little smelt pattern on my drop shot here, and when that sits on the bottom, I'm feeling where that tension is. I'm not lifting the weight off the bottom. I'm just wiggling this, and then the fish has plenty of opportunity to inspect the bait, decide whether or not he likes it, and then when I see a take or I feel a take, then I can set the hook. So I could try that again. Maybe I can get something bigger and better. You walked away and I caught a fish. I don't know what that means. Is my luck good or is your luck bad?
I think what it means is that on this show, you're the fishing expert and I'm the gun expert.
So how do you feel about Lloyd one-upping you?
Well, I don't like it much. But you know, he did the same thing on the smelt fishing show too, you know, and then he started razzing me about, well, what proof do you have that you put any of those in the bucket? So then I'm under pressure to, you know, to actually get something on TV so that, you know, our viewers don't think that I'm not pulling my weight here. But yeah, no, I'm going to have to get something here soon.
I've got a secret. The nymphs are hatching. So I got some of these little Helgramite nymphs, and I haven't told Ken about it yet. A little entomology never hurts.
Have you ever caught Lloyd cheating while you're fishing before?
Have you ever caught Lloyd cheating with fishing before? No, actually I haven't.
I've got a secret. The nymphs are hatching. So I got some of these little Helgramite nymphs, and I haven't told Ken about it yet.
You know, he's caught stuff every time we went. He really knows his fish, and that's one of the reasons I hooked up with him. He just has introduced me to so many different ways to fish, and you know, before I met him, it was sort of haphazard. Throw it in the water and hope you get something, and I've definitely caught a lot more fish listening to him, and you know, going through the rigs and things that he builds. He's got that, you know, he's got that good Maine outdoorsman sense, you know, where he can doesn't always rely on buying it. Sometimes he builds it, and sometimes he buys it and builds it, you know, and improves on what there is. So he's one of those fellas that doesn't have to you know, pull the fish out of the freezer and so to speak, so there's some action on TV. You know, we wanted to run a really authentic show, and sometimes fishing is getting skunked. But we didn't today. The team, Lloyd and Kent, have got a fish. So it shows that, you know, the method does work, and that it's worthwhile at this time of year to get out and get yourself some you know, rigs and some drop shot and bait, and get out there and fish, because it's gorgeous out here. It's just absolutely beautiful. Most of our snow is gone, and it feels like a perfect summer day. Now, if I could just catch a fish. See, that's why I keep the reels that have the mojo, you know. A criminal. That's right over here, right?
Yeah. Give the guest star something he's never gonna catch a fish. So now you know why I asked if you ever caught Lloyd cheating.
Is that why? See?
What, cheating?
Cheating.
I don't cheat.
Yeah, you didn't cheat.
Just selective about the information.
He uses physics to bend the rules as much as he possibly can, but other than that.
Well, it's a little slow here. I mean, it's going to be a little slow everywhere because the water's cold. But we're going to hop over to another hole that we hit on the way over, and give it another shot for a little bit. I mean, I've got a number of places that we could potentially go, but you know, we just take a couple hours and go fishing. So I don't think we'll need to trudge all over. We'll just try this one other hole and then kind of see what happens over there. Well, we're back. We done a little fishing. I lost a lot of gear to that rocky ledge bottom, but I caught a fish.
Caught a fish.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'd like to restate the importance of that safety aspect of spring fishing and going with more than one person. A couple of years ago, some of the longtime watchers of Hanging Around the Fishing Hole may remember my friend Joey Carpenter, and he was fishing by himself, and he should have known better. Fishing by himself out by Wood Island, slipped and hit his head on the rocks, and the tide came up and we lost Joey. So fishing in pairs, especially in the spring when this water is so cold and we're hiking around the rocks, is really important, even if it's people you don't know. Hypothermia sets in quick in that water. If the water comes up, you never know what's going to happen. You know, so if you've got another person with you, and a lot of times what I do is, if I think that it might be slippery or whatever, I'll put my cell phone in a sandwich bag and stick it in my pocket. And you don't got to answer it, but it's there in an emergency situation, you know. And so,
and if you leave air in the sandwich bag,
it'll
stays
float
off the bottom.
That's right. But I mean, that safety aspect is pretty important to me, especially since we lost Joey. So, and fishing is more fun with friends anyway.
Absolutely.
You know, so what do you think about the drop shot?
I like it. I like it. You know, I think that it's a very good method, and even though I didn't snag anything, I like the way that it looked through the water, and I can see why the longer smelt that we started using in the end was really working, because it's just that much more play. You know, and as you said, they're very lethargic because the water's cold, so it's really going to take something to entice them. So in this case, I think today bigger was better.
Right, and what those are is they're really twitching bait, is what they're called, and you can get those hooks online in a number of places. You have to really shop around a little bit to find them at the sporting goods stores. Maybe Kittery has them. I'm not sure, but even Cabela's didn't have them for me this time. But I ordered them online through them. So, you know, for early spring, I was happy to see anything come out of the water.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a good time. So, thanks to everybody for watching, and we definitely had a great time. And we're going to come back next time. Hopefully, we'll be in the boat.
Yeah.
Next show, yeah. We're going to try doing some of that, some trolling tandem flies for trout or salmon. Early in the season, the water temperature hasn't split yet, so salmon will come right up near the top.
That's great.
Yep.
That'd be nice.
So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Hanging Around the Fishing Hole.
See ya. Beats working any day of the week.